Right, well, I haven't done a medical update for some time, so I thought I'd do one, basically. I saw my neurologist this week. New I think I said that I was seeing a new neurologist in a video recently, so yeah, anyway, so it's her. So a bit of background, I guess. I first ended up in neurology after seeing a surgeon about my feet, and they identified a deformity in both my feet, and it's known as what they call a Cavovirus Deformity, which is a combination of a varus heel, which means that it's essentially the heel sort of crooked, meaning that you sort of walk on the outside of the foot. So it's an alignment issue, essentially. And then the cavus arch, which is abnormally high arch, essentially, so that you're walking more on the balls of your feet and your heel rather than the middle of your foot, which combined with the twist from the varus heel means that there's been a lot of pain. Well, is a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, and a rather peculiar gait that has meant that I've needed to use crutches, basically, to get about in the outside world. Not so much around the house, although I have had to use them once or twice indoors, but it's mainly been outside, particularly on rough ground. So I went to neurology from surgery because they basically wanted to know what the cause of the deformity was, whether there was any sort of neurological cause. Went to the first neurologist I had then. Let's say did a number of tests. They did an MRI. I ended up having 4 MRIs over the course of the treatment, the diagnostic process thus far, and they thought it could be a form of dystonia. So they tried a medication called Madopar, which is a levodopa medication, which is a precursor to dopamine and can help with a certain type of dystonia called dopa-responsive dystonia. I think I made a video about that actually a while ago. So from there, the Madopar didn't work, didn't have any effect really, and the side effects were pretty horrendous. So from there, I had the MRI, had some electrical testing done, what's called a nerve conduction study, where they look at how the nerves are working in your feet, essentially, and peripheral nerves mainly, but also, how everything is. It's basically how the nerves are working, and if there's any problems there, which thankfully there wasn't. Had another MRI on my spine, everything good there. Then another MRI on the bottom of my spine because they've sort of done it in sections. The only one thing that the MRI did show is that I've got a bit of what they call cervical spondylitis in the top of my spine, the cervical area of my spine between C4 and 5, I think. And there is some nerve compression on the left, which means, I get slightly shaky left hand and thumb and stuff like that occasionally. From there I went to movement disorder, which was in Cardiff, which again they thought it might be a form of dystonia at first. That was dismissed quite quickly. Well, not quickly. I mean, they did genetic testing and stuff to make sure that it wasn't dystonia, but I mean, it was dismissed then after a period of time, and thought it could be a condition called HSP, which is hereditary spastic paraplegia or hereditary spastic paraparesis. Depending on the severity, I think they call it either paraplegia or paraparesis if it's not as bad as paraplegia. I also had some genetic testing done for that, and for dystonia, as I say, and quite a lot of blood tests for various things, as well as a genetic panel for spinocerebellar ataxia, SCA, but they didn't put a great deal of weight on, it wasn't expected to be that because there was no swelling in the cerebellar area of my brain, which atrophy rather than swelling, which they would expect to see on the MRI if it was present. So ataxia was unlikely, but they tested for it anyway, not least because it can mimic HSP. Tried 3 drugs mainly. Tried Madapar again, which is the levodopa, along with baclofen, which is antispasmodic, I think, and also clonazepam, which is a benzodiazepine, same sort of class as Valium. And all 3 of those were pretty horrendous and didn't help the condition at all. So then my previous neurologist, so he was current at the time, he was going back to Toronto to continue his training, essentially, more advanced therapies, things of that nature. So he transferred me, if you like, referred me to this therapist, again in Cardiff, that I saw this week. If we can call like all the testing, all the drug trials, blah blah blah, the diagnostic phase, it seems now that we're in, a treatment phase, you could call it, I suppose, in which there seem to be 2 main elements. First is an orthotic, which is a thing that is meant to help correct your gait, so, and thereby sort of support the foot, and that can work to an extent. So, for example, that would include things like putting wedges in the shoes, maybe a specially created shoe on occasion. And I've tried the wedges and they didn't really work at all, and again made things worse, as did physiotherapy, unfortunately, which was again under the last neurologist I had. He referred me to a physiotherapist. But yeah, so with the orthotics then, there's another type of orthotic that you can have, which attaches to the leg, and it's got like a supporting rod which goes down the back of the leg, and then a specially shaped and angled plate that goes under the foot, and that helps to that helps with the alignment of the foot and the ankle, essentially. It's called an AFO, or an ankle foot orthotic. While those are good, I mean, in a lot of cases with certain conditions, they can be enough treatment in and of themselves. With a Cavovirus deformity, they can provide some help and some relief, but an operation is often necessary. So I've also been referred back to the surgeons for another surgical opinion, just to see basically if they would still want to do the original operation that I talked about with them, which is known as a tendon transfer. That's where they take the foot, break it in half at roughly the midpoint, and then open it up, reset the bones, reset muscles and tendons and things like that. The recovery period for that is quite long. It's usually up to about a year from what I've read, and about 3 months of that is spent in a cast. And then you've got physio and who the fuck knows what else, frankly. And all of that, and it can take up to about a year per side. So if they do it a foot at a time, it'll end up being 2 years in recovery, essentially. Which, long time, but at least I know what it is, and you know that something's going to happen, and that the problem will be, to an extent, dealt with through that. Whether it's going to be a total fix, if you like, I don't know. I think it's relatively unlikely, in my view, that it's going to be back the way it was, and I'm going to get full mobility back, so to speak. But then that's a good thing, because they think that deformity's been with me all my life. So in a sense, I don't want it to go back to how it was. Yeah, so I'm pretty pleased, frankly, because I feel like over the last 2 years in particular, things seem to have been at a bit of a standstill in terms of um, what the condition is or might be and how to treat it. So at least going back to the surgeons is a positive step. It's not passive, which I think it has felt a little bit passive up till now, really. Yeah, so that's about it, really. Um, I I was gonna make this video a couple of days ago, but couldn't really find a way into it. But I was speaking to a friend of mine. I'm sure people here know who Madame Absinthe is. Well, I was talking to her about it, and she said, why not, sort of describe the operation and the process and, make it a little bit educational in a sense. And I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good way into it. So that's what I hope I've managed to do, really. Yeah, so that's it. I hope everybody's well and that COVID isn't biting too deep for people, essentially. And like, share, comment, subscribe, all that other good stuff. And thank you for watching. Okay, bye.